She's here, she's royal, and she's shaking things up. Meghan Markle has now become very much part of the most famous family in the world.
Being a part of this family and the platform that comes with that is an incredible responsibility that I take really seriously.
But this strong and powerful woman is not stopping there. After a rollercoaster introduction to royal life, the now Duchess of Sussex has made the most of her new role to spread a message of empowerment and acceptance across Great Britain and the Commonwealth.
All that separates, whether of race, class, creed, or sex, is inhuman and must be overcome. May I just say that while I'm here with my husband as a member of the royal family, I want you to know that for me, I am here with you as a mother, as a wife, as a woman of color, and as your sister. On a personal level, I feel so proud to live in a city that can have so much diversity and to be able to celebrate what connects us rather than what divides us.
Admittedly, it hasn't been an easy journey for the new royal, as Meghan has had to battle intense and often unfair scrutiny. And learning what to do and what not to do, what to say and what not to say, has sometimes left her in hot water.
I don't read anything. It's much safer that way. But equally, that's just my own personal preference because I think positive or negative, it can all sort of just feel like noise to a certain extent these days.
From the surprise engagement to the fairytale wedding to starting a family and beyond, Duchess Meghan has been unstoppable. With Prince Harry by her side, the pair have endured their fair share of adoration and turmoil, but they keep calm and carry on. This is Meghan's incredible journey as she redefines everything it means to be a royal. This is Meghan, a new kind of duchess. Now the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan didn't waste any time settling right into the family. On July 10th, just 2 months after they tied the knot, Harry and Meghan appeared on the balcony of Buckingham Palace alongside Her Majesty the Queen and other members of the royal family. The family were joining in the celebrations for a historic flyover to mark the historic 100-year anniversary of the Royal Air Force. On July 13th, Duchess Meghan joined Duchess Kate in a joint appearance at the annual summer tennis event Wimbledon. The royal ladies looked very happy together in their first public outing without their husbands. Turning out to support her close friend, Serena Williams, Meghan sported a stunning Ralph Lauren outfit for the special occasion. A royal schedule is a busy schedule, and Meghan was definitely finding that out fast. Later that month, she cheered on Prince Harry in a charity polo cup. Meghan's good old-fashioned American encouragement must have worked a treat, because Harry's team won, and he was even treated to a rare public smooch. The couple attended a charity performance of the musical hit Hamilton in August. No doubt, Meghan felt right at home being back on the stage.
Say things like, all this stuff about the singer. Really? Hey, man. It's not exactly. It's not nothing personal.
One of the most important roles for a member of the royal family are the charities and causes they choose to support and the significant work they do for those causes. On June 14, 2017, England saw its worst post-war fire at Grenfell Tower. The avoidable tragedy cost 72 lives and devastated the lives of residents and the local community. Meghan Markle chose to show support to those affected and began to cook regularly with residents of the local hub community kitchen.
In January 2018, as I was settling into my new home of London, I met a group of women whose community had been affected by the Grenfell fire. They had decided to get together to cook fresh food for their families and their neighbors.
After the fire, it was somewhere where they could make food to take back to their hotel room where you don't have facilities to cook. It was sort of comforting to be able to do that, and the kitchen gave them the opportunity to do it.
It was quite nice to have that sense of belonging.
After cooking with the women since January of that year, she decided to create a project called Together, a cookbook which showcases recipes from those families affected by the Grenfell fire. Meghan described the book as a labor of love.
Thank you, everyone, so much for coming. Can you hear me all right? Yes, great. Thank you for coming for the launch of Together to celebrate this and the women of the Hub Community Kitchen. Working on this project for the past 9 months has been a tremendous labor of love. I had just recently moved to London and I felt so immediately embraced by the women in the kitchen, your warmth and your kindness, and also to be able to be in the city and to see in this one small room how multicultural it was. On a personal level, I feel so proud to live in a city that can have so much diversity. It's 12 countries represented in this one group of women is pretty outstanding. I said in the foreword that this is more than a cookbook. And what I mean by that is the power of food is more than just the meal itself. It is the story behind it. And when you get to know the story of the recipe, you get to know the person behind it. And that's what we're talking about in terms of coming together to really engage and talk and to be able to celebrate what connects us rather than what divides us. That, I believe, is the ethos of Together. So to the women of the Hub Community Kitchen, thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this adventure with you. I'm so privileged to know you. I'm so excited to see the projects you're going to continue to do in your own community, the community at large, and also how you're going to inspire people globally by sharing your stories and your recipes. It's so impactful. We can see just in a few days alone, and the book's not even out yet, what you've been able to do. That's a testament to what this means to people, and I'm so proud of you. So on that note, I know some of you started eating, as you should. I'd be the last one to want the food to get cold. So please enjoy a beautiful lunch. Another round of applause for the women of the Hub Community Kitchen, and cheers to Together. Thank you.
On September 25th, Meghan made her first official solo appearance, celebrating the opening of Oceania, an art exhibit featuring 500 years of historical works. She entered full of confidence and looking flawless in Givenchy. Continuing in a year of royal firsts, Harry and Meghan found themselves back at Windsor Castle for a wedding, but this time just as guests. The wedding of Princess Eugenie and Jack Brooksbank took place on October 12, 2018.
Not long after their wedding, in fact, their first official royal tour was that Meghan and Harry went off to Fiji, Tonga, and New Zealand together. It was like 16 days. This was a big deal. This was the first time that Meghan and Harry were going to represent the monarchy and the British people abroad in the Commonwealth. I'm sure Meghan spent an awful lot of time figuring out her clothes, knowing she would be scrutinized at every minute, as well as planning speeches, remarks, memorizing the names of the people they'd be meeting and their advisors. It would have been a lot of homework. In fact, We very famously see Meghan getting off the plane when she arrives at the very beginning of her royal tour, carrying a big binder of notes. Now, interestingly, she held it in front of her stomach for a reason. But you see, Meghan was already pregnant on that trip and they hadn't announced it yet. But clutching her research and her notes in front of her enabled her to kind of hide the beginnings of her baby bump. Having said that, it was obvious Meghan had been researching and reading up on the plane. You know, Meghan Markle is not someone who just wants a pretty designer dress and a glass of champagne. She is actually engaged and interested in the politics and the storylines of where they're going. In fact, she got in trouble not that long ago when she met someone in Ireland who was in Parliament, I believe, and congratulated them on the defeat of a bill that would have nullified abortion in Ireland, and said, you know, that's great, and ended up getting in trouble because the Irish politician tweeted, oh, I had this great conversation with Meghan and she congratulated us on the defeat of this initiative. And everybody was like, you can't take a side, Meghan, you can't defend any position. I think, in all honesty, one of the most difficult, challenging things for this whole experience for Meghan is the royal tradition of not taking a side, of not showing your political leanings, of not having opinions. That is something that I think Meghan Markle has already and will very much continue to struggle with.
On the 15th of October 2018, the happy couple announced that they were expecting a baby in the spring of 2019. The announcement came as a surprise to the world, and many sent their congratulations and best wishes via social media, including the Archbishop of Canterbury. Doria Ragland, Meghan's mother, expressed her happiness and said that she is looking forward to welcoming her first grandchild. Despite the news of a royal addition on the way, the Sussexes arrived in Sydney, Australia, to begin their 16-day trip that would take them across the outback and to Fiji, Tonga, and New Zealand. The couple were met by a huge media crowd that never seemed to leave their side. This was the first official royal tour, and the schedule was jam-packed with over 70+ engagements. The couple followed in the footsteps of Prince Charles and Diana, Princess of Wales, whose first royal tour was also to Australia and New Zealand. Meghan seemed in her element, chatting with crowds, full of smiles and laughter. Meghan Markle made a speech at the celebration of 125 years of women's suffrage in New Zealand.
It's my great pleasure and privilege to invite Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex, to speak.
Good evening, everyone. Your Excellencies, Prime Minister, Mr. and Mrs. Bridges, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Tēnā katoa. Your Excellency, thank you for your warm welcome to Government House this evening, as well as for hosting me and Harry during our special time in New Zealand. We are proud to be able to join you tonight in celebrating the 125th anniversary of women's suffrage in your country. The achievements of the women of New Zealand who campaigned for their right to vote and were the first in the world to achieve it are universally admired. In looking forward to this very special occasion, I reflected on the importance of this achievement, but also the larger impact of what this symbolizes. Because yes, women's suffrage is about feminism, but feminism is about fairness. Suffrage is not simply about the right to vote, but also about what that represents. The basic and fundamental human right of being able to participate in the choices for your future and that of your community. The involvement and voice that allows you to be a part of the very world that you are a part of. And women's suffrage is not simply about the right to vote for women, but also about what that represents. The basic and fundamental human right of all people, including those members of society who have been marginalized, whether for reasons of race, gender, ethnicity, or orientation, to be able to participate in the choices for their future and their community. So bravo, New Zealand, for championing this right 125 years ago for the women who well deserve to have an active voice and acknowledged vote, and for all of the people that this effort has paved the way for globally. We all deeply thank you. In the words of your suffragette, Kate Shepherd, all that separates, whether of race, class, creed, or sex, is inhuman and must be overcome. Thank you all so much.
After establishing herself as a figurehead on TV screens across the world, with the success of her role in the series Suits, when Harry met Meghan, things would begin to change.
We were introduced actually by a mutual friend. It was literally, it was through her, and then we met once and then twice back to back, 2 dates in London last July.
Yes.
Beginning of July.
Harry saw Meghan's photograph on Violet von Westenholt's Instagram account because Violet does PR for Ralph Lauren, and Meghan was in this country, in England, doing some PR for Suits, and she was wearing Ralph Lauren. So he saw the photograph and thought, wow, she's hot. And Violet said, well, you know, would you like to meet her? She's over here.
So they met through a mutual friend who set them up really on a blind date, and they had their first date at Soho House in London in 2016. And then, of course, you know, with Meghan living and working at the time in Toronto in Canada, where she was filming Suits, and Harry being based in London, they realised they would have to really go out their way to make time for each other very quickly. So within a few weeks of that first date, they were on holiday together in Botswana.
They were camping under the stars. I don't think it's camping in a way that you and I know it. It's probably a bit more luxurious than that.
Prince Harry had dated a string really, of beautiful English socialites. They tended to be blonde and willowy, very great backgrounds, you know, wealthy families, went to the right schools. However, what Meghan brought to the equation was a lot of humanitarian work that Harry's ex-girlfriends just couldn't even touch with a 10-foot pole. Meghan had actually worked for the UN. She'd gone on missions and trips to support women and children in the developing world. Meghan had been a global humanitarian long before she met Prince Harry. And I think as Harry was very close to stepping into his full role as a member of the royal family, the possibility of meeting someone who was equally passionate and engaged about changing the world and helping other people was extremely attractive to Harry. I think if you watch the engagement interview that Harry and Meghan did on BBC, and they talk about their first meeting and how they instantly connected, it's apparent that yes, there was a mutual attraction, but it went far beyond the physical. Meghan and Harry were attracted to what each other believed in and what each other wanted to do in the world.
Despite her popularity amongst the public, there were branches of the media that made her entry into the royal family undoubtedly rocky.
I think Meghan had quite a difficult initial period after their relationship was confirmed, and we know this because Harry issued a statement defending her and sort of warning people off. You know, she described it as disheartening and discriminatory, but Harry himself mentioned sort of racial undertones, which is pretty upsetting for anyone concerned. And I think, you know, it is a difficult situation when you're thrust into the glare of media interest. The royal family garner a huge amount of attention, and you know, we know that they're not necessarily delighted by it, but you know, they work closely with the media to get their messages across. But I think nothing prepared Harry and Meghan for the wave of interest that followed the announcement of their relationship. And in fact, it was Harry's statement that confirmed they were a couple for the first time. I think it's a really difficult one because they are going to have to get used to the scrutiny, but it's only right that she's treated fairly, and I think it was upsetting for everyone to see that she'd been, you know, caused problems by this coverage.
There's a misconception that because I have worked in the entertainment industry that this would be something I would be familiar with. But even though I'd been on my show for, I guess, 6 years at that point, and working before that, I've never been part of tabloid culture. I've never been in pop culture to that degree, and lived a relatively quiet life, even though I focused so much on my job. And so that was a really stark difference out of the gate. But and I think we were just hit so hard at the beginning with a lot of mistruths that I made the choice to not read anything, positive or negative. It just didn't make sense, and instead we focused all of our energies just on nurturing our relationship.
On us, yeah.
On us.
Meghan and Harry had very much a whirlwind romance. When you are a royal trying to date someone who's a Hollywood actress, which is not unprecedented, but it is unusual, it's very important to stay under the radar. One of the big dangers of this relationship is that there would be a host of publicity, a host of press, and then the two would break up. And then both of them are plagued and haunted by the rest of their lives by questions about this relationship, which was never meant to be. So for celebrities, it's very important before they go public to make sure that it's really serious and it's gonna last, because otherwise it's just embarrassing and it's just bad publicity for everyone. In the case of Harry and Meghan, I think they knew very early on that this was potentially going to be a lifelong romance. But they were very cautious, and they tried to keep their relationship under the radar as they got to know each other to make sure before they went public. Harry made several surreptitious visits to Meghan's condo in Toronto. He would come and go, and really nobody figured out who he was. And Meghan was being, secretly brought over here, stayed with him in Kensington Palace, and again, none were the wiser. Meghan and Harry kept most of their early courting days behind closed doors. They say that, she was cooking him a roast chicken when he proposed. They were used to spending a lot of evenings at home, having home-cooked meals, because they frankly couldn't go out to restaurants. But I think the intimacy of their early days, when they were really forced to spend most of their time alone together at home, contributed to their close connection and bond. Windsor was, an incredible scene the day of the royal wedding. Everyone was excited. The crowds were enormous. As you came up that very famous park, it was mobbed. Both sides of where their carriage was going to go was thousands and thousands of people stood back to back, ready to cheer them on. The applause, the cheers as they drove through Windsor were deafening. There was a tremendous amount of love and support for Meghan and Harry on their special day. As is custom, the Queen's wedding gift to Meghan and Harry were titles. She gave them the titles of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex.
I think everybody was stunned when Meghan got out of the Queen's Phantom Rolls Royce. She was in this virginal white dress with a beautiful train, and on the train were embroidered the emblems of the Commonwealth, because that's going to be her area of work. And she had, obviously her borrowed thing was the tiara, which was a beautiful, beautiful bandeau tiara from the Queen's collection.
There were no mixed feelings about her Stella McCartney party dress that she put on after the wedding. That was universally said to be a winner. And many people, including myself, actually preferred that dress. It was just a knockout. And there's some very famous video footage of Meghan and Harry exiting, and they look like they are literally in a James Bond movie. Harry looks so dapper. They are the most glamorous, gorgeous, sexy, beautiful couple in that moment.
On May 6, 2019, Meghan and Harry became a mother and father.
I'm very excited to announce that Meghan and myself had a baby boy early this morning, a very healthy boy. Mother and baby are doing incredibly well. It's been the most amazing experience I could ever possibly imagine.
It's been widely reported that Harry was at Meghan's side throughout the birth, and of course we saw the very charming, gushing interview he did just hours later when he said, he was so proud of his amazing wife. He just praised her to the skies. You could see they had body language experts reading Harry, and you could see the overwhelming joy and unabashed delight and just pure, pure happiness that radiated out of him.
I haven't been at many births. This is definitely my first birth, but it was amazing, absolutely incredible. And as I said, I'm so incredibly proud of my wife. And as every father and parent would ever say, your baby is absolutely amazing, but this little thing is absolutely to die for. So I'm just over the moon.
The thing about Harry we all love is that there is no artifice. Who he is who he is. We see pure emotion coming off of him all the time, very much like Princess Diana. And when he was talking about the birth of his son, we could see that pure, amazing excitement and joy, and the love he has really for his wife.
The new royal mom and dad have introduced their new son to the world, Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor. The family walked out into the grandeur of St. George's Hall in Windsor Castle. Harry was holding his new son in his arms, both of them overwhelmed with joy.
It's just been the dream, so it's been a special couple days.
Who does he take after? Does he look like anyone?
We're still trying to figure that out.
Everyone says that babies change so much over 2 weeks. We're basically sort of monitoring how the changing process happens over this next month, really. But his looks are changing every single day. Yeah. So who knows? Parenting is amazing. It's only been 2.5 days, 3 days.
Yeah.
But we're just so thrilled to have our own little bundle of joy and to be able to spend some precious times with him as he slowly starts to grow up. He's already got a little bit of facial hair as well. Wonderful. Guys, thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
And thank you everybody for all the well wishes and the kindness. It just means so much. Thank you.
They have given their new son the non-traditional name, Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor. This unusual name seemingly breaks with all royal conventions and once again emphasizes that this is a royal couple that are going to do things their own way.
In the lead up to the birth, Harry and Meghan both said they didn't want to know the sex. They wanted it to be a surprise, so they had to obviously then choose girl and boy names. Had it been a girl, Diana was very much a favorite name, and I believe it was very likely that Diana would have been the first name, or at least in the middle of that long name. And the reason is, from the beginning, Harry and William both have included their mother whenever possible in their relationship. And I think it grieved them both that she wasn't there when they married. She wasn't there to see her grandchildren. And so I believe with all my heart, Diana is probably in future going to be a girl's name for this pair. In terms of boys' names, there were a lot of names initially floated around. They were all connected with royal tradition, but not typically traditional. Well, some of the names that have been tossed around by the royal couple were believed to be Philip, of course after Prince Philip, who's very close with Harry. Charles, honoring Prince Charles, who we know walked Meghan down the aisle and has been a constant support to her. And also we heard Alexander, we heard Arthur, which are both sort of royal names, but not necessarily as common. We knew it wasn't going to be Camilla. We knew there was definitely not a Camilla in the mix for girls' names, but it was very, very likely. And I think in future, should they have a daughter, it will very, very likely be named Diana.
Good to see you. So you want me over here?
Yes, so X marks the spot.
X marks the spot.
Lovely horses in the background.
Nice.
It's all ready. Right. Prince Harry, have you got any news you want to share with us and the world?
Yes, I'm very excited to announce that Meghan and myself had a baby boy.
The baby was born at 5:26 a.m. He was 7 pounds 3 ounces. It's a very good size, actually bigger than Harry was when he was born. And he was born, we believe, at the Portland Hospital. Meghan was open about the fact that she wanted to give birth at home. However, something like 45% of first-time mums who want to give birth at home end up requiring an intervention at a hospital. When you have your first baby, your body knows what to do, but not exactly. And they say you have an untried pelvis is actually what the medical term is. And so Meghan, like a lot of first-time mums, wanted to give birth at home, but ended up having to go into the hospital. And it was the Portland Hospital, which is the American U.S. favored hospital for women over here that are posh and giving birth. Baby birthing suites at the Portland go up to 30,000 pounds a night. Meghan would have had round-the-clock care and nurses. I've been in those birthing suites, and they are very much like hotel rooms. I went to the one at the Kensington wing at Chelsea, Westminster, where Amal Clooney gave birth, who's a good friend of Meghan's. And it is like a hotel. You have nurses instead of room service, and they take your baby and all the time, help you with breastfeeding, with constant care, bringing in sandwiches, champagne, anything you fancy. And it's a really nice experience. We don't know, and I don't think Meghan and Harry will ever divulge a lot of the personal details, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if Meghan had a water birth, because for women looking to have a very natural experience when home is not an option, typically water birth is what they most want. Having said that, if Meghan did require hospital intervention, which we believe she did, it may have been that she ended up having to have a C-section in the end. So we don't know, and I don't believe the royal couple will ever make that known. Starting really from the last month of pregnancy, when we didn't see Meghan Markle, until the royal palace really refused to say if she'd even given birth or not in the weeks up to her birth. And then when they announced she was in labor only after the baby had already been born, Meghan and Harry have been doing things their own way. They have made a statement, a clear statement, that this baby belongs to them, not the public. In my understanding, this is somewhat unprecedented when there's this much interest and when the royals are determined to keep it to themselves. Harry and William had very different experiences as new fathers. Harry's was a lot more private. But having said that, of course you have to remember William is in a far different position than Harry. William will be king. Harry will never be king. So I think the standards are not the same. The expectation isn't as high. And Harry and Meghan hopefully will be allowed more privacy.
It's been the most amazing experience I could ever possibly imagine. How any woman does what they do is beyond comprehension, but we're both absolutely thrilled and so grateful to all the love and support for everybody out there, from everybody out there. It's been amazing. So we just wanted to share this with everybody.
Of course, it's the first royal birth, to my knowledge, that's been announced on Instagram. But we know that Harry and Meghan posted "It's a boy" on their Instagram page. We knew they were going to announce it on Instagram. That had been kind of leaked by the palace, so we were all kind of watching to see what it would say. This little guy is 7th in line for the throne. He will almost definitely never be king, but that will free him up to have a lifestyle which is far more free of royal restriction and probably a lot more normal and happier, perhaps, than the poor Prince George, who's going to have the scrutiny of the world on him when he comes of age. Well, the whole world was celebrating with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, but London in particular really lit up the skies. The London Eye was decked out as a Union Jack, lighting up the night, and the BT Tower, which is a huge building in London, had a big, big glowing sign, "It's a boy." So truly, London is alive with happiness over this birth.
He has the sweetest temperament. He's really calm and
I don't know who he gets that from.
yeah, and he's just been the dream. So it's been a special couple days.
So Meghan's mother, Doria, has been unfailingly supportive of her daughter, so much so that she actually took a class on how to be a supportive doula in the birthing room. She was seen actually taking classes on this in LA. So her mother was studied up, and she came over to help and assist Meghan with her home birth and during the birth process, and Doria is still believed to be there as well, helping Meghan with the initial weeks of motherhood. And I'm sure they're doing some post-baby yoga together as well. The Queen has now met her 8th great-grandchild. She's said to be thrilled. Prince Charles announced the birth in a speech he was making at the time in Berlin to a widespread smattering of applause. And Prince William and Kate were asked about it. They were beaming, and William said he's absolutely delighted and thrilled for his brother, and he welcomes him to the sleep-deprived club that is new parents. There was a lot written about the way that Meghan and Harry handled this birth. In some believe there has been a fundamental disconnect on the part of Meghan and Harry in the difference between being a celebrity and being a royal. As a celebrity, you're entitled to privacy when it comes to things like this. I mean, of course, you have Beyonce with reporters camped out at the hospital, but as a celebrity, you don't owe the public anything when it comes to pictures of your newborn. As a royal, the expectation is that you do. As a royal, the expectation is that this family, in a way, belongs to the public. They're public servants. And if the people want to see a picture of the baby, you give them a picture of the baby. If the people want to see the new mom just hours after she gives birth, trotted out in stockings and high heels, then you do it. That has been done up until now. Whether or not that's right, that is the precedent. So for Harry and Meghan to treat this the way a celebrity would really treat this, which is, we ask for privacy at this time, that's not what royals do. And the British press and some of the public have been upset because they want to feel like they're participants in this birth the way they have in other royal births. However, Meghan and Harry have drawn a clear line in the sand and said, no, we have boundaries and this is ours. And we're not letting you in to this special moment in the way that, say, William and Kate did. The initial hours after the baby's born belong to us, not to you. That is the difference in the way celebrities and royals view these kinds of things, and that has been a sticking point for some people in the British press.
After a short stint out of the spotlight, the new mother was back in the royal schedule soon enough. Meghan even made an appearance at the premiere of The Lion King and crossed paths with music royalty, Queen Bee, Beyonce. A moment that sent social media into meltdown. On September 12, 2018, the Duchess of Sussex launched a new SmartWorks capsule collection in London on the rooftop of Oxford Street's John Lewis department store.
When I first moved to the UK, it was incredibly important to me personally to be able to connect with people on the ground doing really important work. And one of the places that I went to very early on was SmartWorks. Now, funny enough, and purely by coincidence, it was just a year ago at this same time that I was working on a project in Grenfell with this woman at a community center called Almanar, and that's when we put together the Together cookbook. So though this is a year later, and obviously this is fashion, not food, at its core, these are very similar projects because they're about women who are empowering each other, me being able to have the opportunity to meet them, get to know them, learn from them, and then say, what can I do in some small way? How can I try to help you amplify this? How can we make this even better, greater, and more impactful for the women that you're trying to help? So on my visits to SmartWorks, one of the times that I went, I realized there was a little bit of a challenge in terms of styling for the women because we had a lot of donations, but not necessarily the things that women needed to have. I said, okay, well, let's try to work with what we have and make the best of it. And then the next time I went, you'll remember this, there was a rack of about 40 or 50 lilac-colored blazers. Now, don't get me wrong. It's a great blazer, and I'm sure for someone, it's exactly what she wants to be wearing. But for most women, when you're going in there and you want to have a job interview and you want to feel your very best and you want to feel confident, you want to be wearing the pieces of clothing that make you feel that way and not the leftovers that didn't sell from the end of a season. And I kept thinking about it as I went home, and it didn't track for me. And I said, we have to do something to change this. And a big piece of this is trying to transform the idea of charity to community. And the way that we do that, I think, as people, is when we go into our closet as a woman and you say, I'm gonna make a donation, you don't go through your closet and just toss in a box whatever you don't care about anymore. That's charity as we know it today. Community is going through your closet and saying, this is the blazer that I wore when I nailed my first job interview and got my dream job. And I don't need that anymore because I'm where I want to be. But if I'm able to share that blazer and be part of another woman's success story, then that's community.
On September 23, 2019, Harry and Meghan set out on another royal tour, this time as a family with their new baby boy Archie. The tour was a 10-day visit to Harry's favorite part of the world, Africa. They began their visit in Cape Town's Nyanga Township, where they saw a workshop that supports children and empowers young girls.
May I just say that while I'm here with my husband as a member of the royal family, I want you to know that for me, I am here with you as a mother, as a wife, as a woman of color, and as your sister. I am here with you, and I am here for you, and I thank you so much for showing my husband and I the spirit of Ubuntu. And I look forward to our time over the next few days together. Thank you so much for having us.
The entire tour was filmed for an ITV documentary about the royal couple. However, controversy arose when Meghan spoke candidly to a reporter about her struggle over the past 2 years adapting to royal life, being a new mother, and trying to fit into life in a different country.
You add this on top of just trying to be a new mom or trying to be a newlywed. It's, yeah, well, I guess, and also thank you for asking, because not many people have asked if I'm okay. But it's a very real thing to be going through behind the scenes.
Mental health has been an issue both Prince Harry and his brother and sister-in-law, Prince William and Kate, have championed for a while. Their Heads Together campaign was an enormous success in highlighting the importance of speaking openly and about your emotional struggles, no matter who you are.
So from students to politicians, from apartheid campaigners from the 1950s to teenagers on a beach, from the mothers with HIV providing health care to their community, and to the entrepreneurs who are driving the businesses of the future. They all showed me a power and a solidarity that in this moment, in this time, all women and all people can take strength and inspiration from. Because these amazing African women have discovered self-belief and found their worth. And at our visit earlier this morning, I was struck by a small sign that was posted on the wall for the female entrepreneurs. And it said, "Visualize your highest self and show up as her." This is the spirit of the women and girls I have met on this trip. They are not defining themselves by how they compare to others or making their success and marking it against historical expectations. They are simply paving their own path. They have their own voice, and they are being listened to. And as I've said before, I firmly believe that all women have a voice. They just need to feel empowered to use it, and people need to feel encouraged to listen. There's a role for all of us here. As women, we can listen to one another and lift each other up. We can raise our boys to be men who value women. And for men and boys, you can lead by example and not let your mothers, your daughters, your sisters, wives, or girlfriends ever feel that they are lesser than you. I remember being a young girl watching TV and seeing what was happening in the world, and frankly, often feeling despair. Because when you continue and constantly see and hear negativity, it can be overwhelming. You can feel powerless and lost. You can feel different, confused, or like you don't belong. And I'm sure that there is a young girl or boy watching this and maybe thinking the exact same thing. So this is for you. In a world that can seem so oppressive, confrontational, and dangerous, you should know that you have the power to change it. Because whether you're here in South Africa, at home in the UK or the US, or around the world, you actually have the power within you to change things, and that begins with how you connect to others. I have learned from the people I've met here that whether it's about society's expectations of masculinity or femininity, or how we divide ourselves by race, or faith, or class, or status, everyone has value, and everyone deserves to be heard and respected. And if you live your life in that way, your generation will start to value each other in ways the rest of us have not yet been able to do so.
It's now the penultimate day of the tour.
It is.
From your point of view, how's it gone? And do you think that you as a woman of colour can bring something new and interesting to the way the royal family engages with people in countries such as South Africa?
Well, the Commonwealth is a very diverse place, right, with 53 countries. And so being a part of this family and the platform that comes with that is an incredible responsibility that I take really seriously. Being able to be in Africa and South Africa, it's my first time being in this country, has been really powerful. And, you know, Harry has continued on in a couple other countries. We're reuniting today. I can't wait for I miss him so much. No, I think for us, it's just been a really special trip because you get to see when you're focusing on the causes that are really important to us. You can see that the impact is good and it feels meaningful.
Talking about how's it been for you as a family? You've had 4-month-old Archie here.
Yes,
how's it been having Archie with you and also being separated from Harry all this time?
Oh my goodness, well, we're doing well. I think the schedule, they've been very kind to me because everything's based around Archie's feed times. So it's a full plate, but we're making it work. It's worth it. So thank you.
Excellent, thank
you.
Nice
to talk to you. Thank you all so much. As my husband said so eloquently, you really have been such an inspiration for us. And being here today, from every level of what we've seen, there's such a holistic approach to how you have energized and mobilized each other to be part of a bigger change. And on a personal note, seeing the work that's being done at Blossom is incredible. I had worked with an organization very similar several years ago in India called Minna Mahila, and being able to see you are creating the product that is needed within the community. You'd be able to become the provider for everything about the economy and what you need as opposed to getting it externally. You are feeding yourselves through that work. And on top of which, being able to enable these women to have the power to then own the company is amazing. But that's what's amazing and that's what's needed because there's so much talent here, there's so much ingenuity here, and there's so much promise here. So given the level of support and the resources that you need, the potential is astronomical and you can see that there. And I think for you women, I'm so proud of you in the business that you're creating and also being able to now control your own purse strings because when you have that level of independence, my goodness, you can do anything. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to meet with all of you, to be able to feel inspired, and for welcoming us so warmly, strongly, beautifully into your country. We loved it. Thank you.
No matter what sort of storm the media tries to stir up around the Duchess of Sussex, she always comes out on top, smiling and looking more confident and more stunning than ever. In November 2019, List named Meghan Markle the most powerful dresser of the year. And for Christmas that year, Harry, Meghan, and baby Archie spent the day with new grandmother, Doria Ragland, as a family. From a whirlwind romance to a fairy tale wedding, all the way to motherhood and beyond, Meghan Markle continues to show the world that she is very much a strong, modern woman, a role model to women around the world. She took on the challenge of going from Hollywood to Windsor, and only grew more popular and beloved because of her honesty, empathy, and ambition. Meghan's royal journey may have just begun, but there is no doubt that she is a new kind of Duchess.